A grid at Snetterton is formed full of Ginettas, and this time it's the Ginetta Junior Championship that takes centre stage. It's the third and final race for them of the weekend, and two different winners thus far. Fred Green won yesterday's race. Rocco Coronel won the morning race. It was a rather rowdy affair early on in the day, it's got to be said, and as the cars then grid up for the final race of the weekend, the grid is formed based upon the results from earlier on. Now, Fred Green had led. He's in the white car. Have a look at the second Red Bull liveried car, number 8, Scott Lindblom, because coming off turn 4, just gets straight into the side of Green, turns him around. Fred ended up 16th after that, fought back amazingly to finish 6th. Anyway, Scott Lindblom was eventually excluded for that. He'd already had another drama at the last corner, which actually put him into penultimate place, but disqualified and penalty points applied. So doesn't really help Fred Green particularly, but it does sort of illustrate the point that bad driving standards aren't tolerated. Yesterday's race was hard but really clean. The earlier race was rather more fractious. The cars are on the grid. It is Rocco Coronel who is on pole position, and we are awaiting the formation lap because there is a car from an earlier Ginetta race that is still being retrieved from over on the far side of the circuit. But hopefully we can't be too far away. There it is. And very shortly that recovery vehicle will go backwards. The green flag lap probably could be started now, because by the time they get there, that car would be well and truly off the track. But still the cars are being held for some reason. And the car on pole position is that of Rocco Coronel, who's now had 8 wins. He's the championship leader. Joseph Smith in the pale blue car is with him at the front of the grid. Harry Bartle, who was 3rd in the morning race today, he is 3rd on the grid. And Torin Byrne, 4th, who had another good run. Because there were all sorts of dramas on the one restart lap after a safety car period in the race today, it ended up with an awful lot happening, really, on that last lap. And with a tangle triggered again by Lindblom at the last corner, it meant that the field was somewhat shuffled. Now, that grid is different, again, from how things were expected. Lindblom should have been at the back because of being excluded, but there's another car after him. So I'm not entirely sure what's happened at the rear of the grid. However, the front of it looks all right. Rocco Coronel is there in place with Joseph Smith lining up 2nd. And there you can see number 51, which is Fred Green. Harry Bartle's number 73 car is the one that has now been moved to the back of the grid. So a further amendment to the way that the cars now should have lined up. So everybody sets off behind the pace car. 20 minutes on the clock, even though things are running a bit late. I've not been aware of any reduction to the time of this, so 20 minutes in prospect. Rocco Coronel, then the son of Tom Coronel, great touring car champion. He is the driver that is on pole position. Joseph Smith 2nd, and Torin Byrne then now for 3rd on the grid. He's going to be a man to watch. His father was a very good Caterham champion for many a season, and it'll be interesting to see what progress he can make from there. This is confirmation of that grid. Rocco Coronel on pole, Joseph Smith with him at the front. Then the second row is going to be Torin Byrne and Max Cuthbert, with Fred Green starting 5th and Colin Crone in 6th. His brother has just had a win in the Ginetta GT Championship. 7th on the grid, George Proudfoot-Nalder, ahead of Alfie Slater. Then Revy Lake and Max Murray, ahead of Ethan Lennon and Jarrett Clark, with Emilio Del Grosso and Noah Young next up. Then you've got Ethan Carney and Felipe Rice, ahead of Raoul Zunzer and Henry Cameron. Andrew Robinson goes from 19th ahead of Joshua Henry, Matthew Chiwara and Katrina E. Then you've got Felix Livesey, whose car was damaged late race. Joshua Watts, who lost the right rear corner broken suspension, ahead of Scott Kin Lindblom, who was excluded from the earlier race. And Harry Bartle as well is going to be at the back. And he is at the back because his catalytic converter was not operational, and therefore it was a technical infringement that disqualified Harry Bartle from the earlier race. In this day and age, normally it's driving standards or track limits that offer up penalties. Quite rare to have a judicial form that talks about a catalytic converter. Number 25 there, George Proudfoot-Nalder, who was in the walls a bit in yesterday's race because he ended up with damage to the front of the car, which therefore prized the front section of bodywork open, and every time the air got under it, it lifted it a little bit more. In the end, the car had to be retired, but George Proudfoot-Nalder then 7th in the earlier race, 7th on the grid for this. The cars are working their way up onto the back of the circuit, onto Bentley Straight. So Rocco Coronel tends to, if he's not leading, leave it late and then make his move within the last lap, maybe two, so there's limited opportunity for anybody to tow their way back past him. Revy Lake in the Elite Motorsport entry, making his way down the Bentley Straight ahead of number 17, the car of Max Murray, Project R entry. Revy Lake's view coming then underneath the vehicle bridge. The reason that the formation lap, even though it's a standing start, is being controlled by a pace car is just that, to try and get the cars round at a reasonable speed so that the formation lap doesn't take too long. So it's all done to a proper plan, it's all controlled. And Rocco Coronel versus Joseph Smith on the front row. Fred Green then, winner yesterday, one to watch now starting 5th. Alfie Slater, a race winner this year, will be another driver to keep an eye on, promoted to 8th on the grid. And here the cars come then now up to the exit of Coram, then on towards turn 12 and then up towards the grid. So 20 minutes on the clock, and all of these 100 horsepower identical Ginetta G40s. Many of the teams have been in the championship for quite a long time now, so they know all the ins and outs of these cars, and it's so useful for the drivers because 14 to 17 years of age, many of them totally new to car racing when they come into it and need a good team around them that can instantly help operate the car, teach them the pitfalls and how to avoid them. So to the grid they come. So it is on pole position 8 times a race winner, Rocco Coronel. The other winners, remember, Fred Green twice and Alfie Slater once. His father was a very handy Porsche racer going back a decade or two. His brother, Freddie Slater, has been one of the recent crop of stars in single-seater racing from the UK. Not racing that much in Britain, largely this year doing Formula Regionale, but very quick indeed is Freddie Slater. Right, the grid is formed. 20 minutes are ready to go. And so the last couple of cars into place on the grid, the one-by-one staggered grid, just to give a bit more space and a bit of safety on the opening laps of the race. So everybody is there. Rocco Coronel in the Red Bull colours, focusing on the lights. Keep an eye on Scott Lindblom, the Swedish driver from the back, also in Red Bull livery, because he's going to be a man to watch, no doubt about it, to try and get through the traffic here and make amends for that exclusion earlier on in the day. Right, everybody is there. Now the 5-second board is finally shown after a long wait for that. And Rocco Coronel looks at the lights, which go red. The race gets underway now, and Coronel bolts away from the line. Good start also made by number 75, Colin Cronin, to move across the traffic and try and defend on the run up towards turn 1. So one car stranded, I'm afraid to say. We'll get to that in a moment as the cars dive into the first corner with Max Cuthbert there, number 34 on the back of Torin Byrne, and trying to keep Fred Green at bay as the cars accelerate their way now up towards the right-hander of Wilson, the hairpin at turn 2 for the first time. Coronel leading the way. Joseph Smith in second place. Fred Green on the outside line there, trying to find his way up through the traffic as the cars turn out of the corner, being roughed up a little bit and run out wide was Green. He's not the only one either, because there also off the racetrack was Jarrett Clark, another of the R Racing drivers. This is the Spanish driver, Raul Nazaren's view as he comes into turn 3 on the outside line. Coronel leading the way then. Second, it is Joseph Smith, and you can see in the background the yellow car of Colin Cronin all over the back of the white one of Fred Green, who's father Nigel, Formula 1, Formula 2 stock car world champion. Brakes hard, turns into Agostini. This is Bradford Nalder's view. Cronin ahead. To the outside line is Slater. Alfie Slater loses out to Green, leans on Cronin. That folds the left-hand side mirror back on Slater's car. Didn't use it anyway. And through on the inside line goes Cronin. Does that open the door for Bradford Nalder? Not really. Slater covers off the inside line. To the outside line goes the Australian, George Bradford Nalder, but he can't find a way through that. Look, Lindblom on the attack in the other Red Bull car up the inside of Josh Watts, who's another driver coming up from the back of the grid. He had broken suspension in the earlier race, so was stranded. It was his car that triggered the safety car. And number 5 going through there is Emilio Del Grosso, who got a grid drop for today's earlier race, but going nicely right now. So the leaders come down towards the S's for the first time, and as they do so, it's Coronel in the lead. That's Green diving out of the draft, making his move up on the inside of Cuthbert and going through. So Fred Green heading up into 4th place now. Could still be on for a win here, the way that he's going. We know that he's quick, and as we've seen from his karting days, he's got good racecraft as well. Scott Lindblom goes through, starting to chip his way forward. Number 40 is the car of Joshua Henry, the Tim Gray Motorsport entry. So it's Coronel in the lead, but he's not getting away. There behind him, it is Joseph Smith as the Pirelli tyres squeal in protest, coming all the way around Coram, and then they set them up for turn 12, go left. And it's Coronel who will lead the way at the end of the opening lap. The Red Bull liveried car in the lead of the race. Coronel drives for the R Racing team, one of the top teams in Ginetta Junior Racing, but he's not getting away at the moment. In second place as they come by, it is Joseph Smith ahead of Torin Byrne, Fred Green fourth. Fifth is Max Cuthbert. In sixth place is Colin Cronin, who's very much from a motorsport family. There he is, number 75. Eldest brother Keith, 4 times British Rally champion. We've seen his brother racing already and winning in Ginetta GT today. To the inside line for the race lead goes Joseph Smith, and he goes through. In third place, Torin Byrne, fourth, Fred Green, fifth, Max Cuthbert. That's the leading wave, and Coronel then dumped down, for the moment at any rate, into second place. He's still got 17 minutes of the race to go, so we'll see whether or not he's going to be able to fight back from there as the cars accelerate their way then all the way to the right-hander of Agostini. As they come down towards us, then you've got Smith in the lead. A bit of dust being kicked up in the background. Torin Byrne's the one who makes a big move around the outside this time around and tries to go from third all the way through, but runs out of road. So Torin Byrne way off the racetrack. Up the inside line here comes Coronel fighting back for the race lead, retakes the advantage. Green's up to third as well, number 51. So it's Coronel in the lead. Second, it's Smith. Third is Fred Green. To the inside line, trying to go for fourth, Max Cuthbert, and Slater and Cronin are joining in as well now. So that's 7 cars effectively for the race lead. It might be 8 before long, as George Proudfoot-Nalder is getting up into the mix as well. Coronel then has hit the front, but he's not getting away. Out wide will go Byrne. He just runs out of road there. He was on the outside line. It was always going to end badly, and having made a mega move down at turn 4, by the time he comes out of turn 7, he's dropped a long way back. George Proudfoot-Nalder, he's going to be ahead of him as well then as he makes the move in a straight line. Goes through, and a nice pass that by the Australian driver to pick up another place as Coronel still hangs on to the lead. But he is under big pressure for it right now as the cars come up through the S's and once again make that run now onto the right-hander of Bomhole. That's Josh Watts, who was out of race 2 with broken suspension. He's pushing his way forward as best he can. Now Fred Green's becoming ever more of a threat, isn't he? First of all to Smith, and he needs to get past him before Coronel starts to get away. The last thing he needs is to have to try to claw back a gap against the leader. So here they come, up over the line. Coronel was advantage by 0.181 of a second last time around. This time, still Smith second, but let's have a look what's going on behind him. Fred Green, another place gained as he chips his way forward. Ralston's is on the back of Ethan Carney as they come through, still with 15 more minutes on the clock. Nose to tail for the race lead. They could barely be closer as they go by. Coronel, race leader, hugs the inside line. Alfie Slater makes a move on the inside of Cuthbert. Green to the outside of anybody he can find. The outside there, if you stand your ground, becomes the inside for the next corner. And look, he's gone all the way around the outside there of the blue car of Joseph Smith. So Fred Green now onto the back of Coronel. This is for the race lead. Third, it is Smith. Alfie Slater is up into fourth. Fifth is Cuthbert as Smith goes wide off turn 3. That gives Slater the momentum to challenge on the inside line. Look, coming down towards Agostini now. Behind him in the yellow car, 6th it's Cronin. 7th is Proudfoot-Nalder. In 8th place, Torin Byrne after his rally cross of the previous lap. And for 3rd place, they're side by side. This is George Proudfoot-Nalder's view now. So, bouncing his way off the curb, back onto the tarmac, goes in that blue car, Joseph Smith. As Coronel is the one that makes a small mistake and goes wide, coming out of Hamilton's this time around. Up the inside goes Cuthbert, leans on Smith, knocks him sideways and knocks him wide, in fact, onto the dirt. So Cuthbert is delayed. That gives Cronin the chance to challenge up the inside line. And through he goes. Colin Cronin gains the place. He takes with him there, look, number 25, which is George Proudfoot-Nalder. So the bite a bit in a way. There, Max Cuthbert being aggressive into one corner, compromises him as well, and he loses places. Proudfoot-Nalder to the outside line of Cronin. That's rather split up the pack a little bit as Green now challenges for the race lead. Gets a toe, gets the inside line for the S's. Does he get the lead? Yes, he does. Gets his nose in front of Coronel, gives him room. Coronel comes back on the inside. Fred Green rides the curb on the exit of the S's. Alfie Slater right there behind them as well in the green and grey car. Coronel on the inside line. Wonderful racing as ever from Ginetta Juniors, but Green runs out of real estate, way wide onto the weeds. Up the inside comes Slater, and all of a sudden from third to first goes Alfie Slater with a really good opportunistic move. Coronel second, Green third. Out of Coram they come. So Alfie Slater able to read that beautifully, see where the gap was. The road opened up in front of him, but he bounces up the curve there at turn 12, and that might just delay him ever so slightly. Comes up towards the line. Right, how many for the lead? Well, it's pretty much everybody all the way back to Lindblom, isn't it? There's probably half the field in with this leading line. Past the pits they go. Slater ahead of Coronel. Fred Green with his rather dirty tyres then in third place. He's not lost too much time though, and George Proudfoot-Nalder is up into fourth place ahead of Cronin fifth and Cuthbert sixth. Through they go, side by side for the lead again. Here comes Coronel, back up the inside. Brakes as late as he dares. Fred Green tries to get up the middle, and that's the inside line as far as Slater is concerned as well, as they turn their way out of the hairpin. Look back then, this is at the car of Cronin. Proudfoot-Nalder you're riding with, he's in fourth place, and not only that, has caught back up to Slater, who is on the back of Green, who's right with the leader, Coronel. Scott Lindblom, by the way, from the back row of the grid, up into 15th place, so he's almost got past half the field, and he's certainly not done yet as he comes off turn 3 in the background. Here are the leaders. Coronel back to the front, and it's Green second, and Slater third then as he tries to go around the outside. This is the corner that Green got well and truly mugged at in the earlier race, but no dramas so far in this. Revy Lake goes by, also starting to become part of that leading line of cars as Coronel versus Green. The battle continues. They turn now through the infield part of the circuit, heading up towards Oggies, where you can see Green covers off any sort of a move from Slater, who gets into the back of him. Proudfoot-Nalder is there in fourth place, fifth of the inside line now, and contact is Colin Cronin. Cronin has the gap though, and he goes through, coming on to Bentley straight. And the other one that's looking quick again is Joseph Smith. Now remember, he was second early on and got well and truly roughed up. Smith is on the attack again. Max Cuthbert goes to the outside line of Proudfoot-Nalder. The leader is Coronel. It's Fred Green second, and here Coronel has got away by about a length or so. Proudfoot-Nalder to the inside line. He's trying to retake places. In fact, he's been well and truly elbowed back in the queue here as they swing their way up now from the first to the second part of the S's, the Brundle-Nelson sequence of corners. Max Cuthbert then goes by. Here are the leaders. Coronel ahead of Green, ahead of Slater, and then a small gap has opened up between them and fourth place. We're almost at the halfway mark now, 10 minutes and change on the clock as they come by, and as they do so, down towards turn 12, it is still just up front, the Red Bull liveried car of Rocco Coronel. This is back on board with George Proudfoot-Nalder, so he was fourth at the start of the lap. He's on the back of Max Cuthbert now. Leaders go through, Coronel, Green, Slater. 3/10 between the top two, 3/10 between second and third. Cuthbert looks to go to the inside of Smith there, can't do it. So number 23, Rocco Coronel, comes out of riches as others in the background go wider and wider, including Torin Byrne, number 18, who was on the grass early on, remember, and fell way down the order. So Green still on the back of the car of Coronel, hunting a way through if he can find one. Together they run now into that left-hander. Out of turn 3 they will turn up towards Agostini. And interestingly, even though that leading trio is squabbling and being pretty busy about it, the driver behind, Colin Cronin, not able to do very much about them. So that gap not yet coming down as there to the inside line. Looks Green, go left now into the left-hander of Agostini. Coronel goes wide. Accelerates now off the corner. You can see all of them running up onto the curb and the grasscrete on the outside of Agostini. Traction to be found and using that as their advantage. Coronel still under huge pressure. We've seen all season that he's very, very good up front, is Coronel, but what he's not able to do is get away. So he is still able to maintain the advantage. Lindblom, by the way, is in the other Red Bull liveried car, still there, look, pushing his way up the order. He was 12th at the start of the lap. He's now 11th, and that is a gain, therefore, of 14 places, and he isn't done yet. As I say, there's still time in which, with nearly 9 minutes on the clock, he can get himself into the top 6. And if it all kicks off ahead of him, you never know what might happen. In fairness, though, in the earlier race, he was the one that did the kicking on more than one occasion as well. So out of the S's they come. Big sideways snap there from Revy Lake's car. That is Lindblom, number 8. And this is for the race lead. And Fred Green has just chipped away a little bit more and a little bit more over the course of the last few corners to get right onto the tail of Rocco Coronel as they swing through Coram now, heading down towards turn 12. Up towards the timing line they come. Coronel the leader. Fred Green behind him. Small gap back. Alfie Slater third. Now he's been given a driving standards flag for track limit abuses. So also Noah Young, and so also George Proudford-Nelder. So drivers now needing to be careful. Coronel though still soaking up the pressure applied by Fred Green. Now is Green going to do to Coronel what Coronel does to other people? In other words, sit behind him until almost the last lap of the race and then make a move? No, he's going to lock up going into turn 2 and lose a bit of momentum coming off the corner. Lindblom to the inside line there, gets crowded up the inside, bit of contact. Lake loses out there. Revy Lake sort of biffed aside. That means that up the inside line goes Raoul Zunzeren. And this is Lake's view, trying to regroup, fourth gear up to turn 3. A lift, a turn. Back onto the power the other side. So still Coronel versus Green for the lead. 7 minutes are on the clock, remember, as the race is 20 minutes by way of time rather than a set number of laps. Max Cuthbert, number 34, yo-yoing up and down the order and being run out wide here by George Proudford-Nelder, who gets up alongside and he's going to have the inside line for the next corner. Proudford-Nelder goes by, moves himself up into the top 6, but Max Cuthbert is going to be on the attack straight away to try to retake the place. Nose to tail, little tap in the back even of number 25 there. So here is the lead fight, and Slater is being dropped. Even though the leaders are running nose to tail, Slater not able to take advantage of that. And Slater has oddly done the fastest lap of the race, but right now can't seem to do anything about staying in touch with Green. The driving standards flag recipients this time around are Emilio Del Grosso and also now to Felix Livesey. He's another one that's made good progress. In fact, Felix up to 13th place. Lindblom goes through and now up into 8th place with Ethan Lennon's car behind him, and then Torin Byrne, number 18, who's fallen back another place. So starting 25th on the grid, Scott Lindblom up into 8th. This is how it can be done. Good racecraft, and without any unnecessary contact either. At the back of the queue there, you can see Raoul Zunzeren in number 3, and he turns out of Coram, sets the car up for the next lap as the leaders are almost overlapping. 6 minutes now on the clock. Up to the line they come. Pitboard goes out for Rocco Coronel from good racing stock. Fred Green behind him from good racing stock. And the same can be said also of Alfie Slater. And indeed, Colin Cronin next up as the field paws its way through Riches. There's Max Cuthbert going by, number 34. Still in touch more or less, but the gaps have just opened up a little bit ahead of him. And in fact, Scott Lindblom in that now 8th place, finding it harder to make more progress. Cuthbert gets past George Proudford-Nelder, who tries to tighten the line off the corner and make the move coming off turn 2. But that will only serve to put him on the outside line for the next left-hander. Accelerating their way now towards the Agostini corner. There in the background, Max Cuthbert comes under attack. George Proudford-Nelder is on the attack once again. This is the view from Proudford-Nelder's car. Cuthbert goes by, picks up the place. So the race leaders with there going a little bit wide up the curb. Max Cuthbert fending off the challenge of George Proudford-Nelder behind him. This, remember, is for 6th and 7th places. And 8th behind them, Scott Lindblom still trying to play catch-up, but he's finding it tougher now that these are big gaps. And in a one-make category, unless people make mistakes, it's hard to buy back the time when a gap has opened up. He's out of range of a toe, fundamentally, and that's now starting to go against him. So the leaders again come along the Bentley Straight. Rocco Coronel won the earlier race today by 1.4 seconds, and that, don't forget, was after a safety car period. This is Raoul Zunzeren, who breaks now and comes to the end of Bentley Straight down towards the S's as he makes a move, and he's going to go through. Is it? Yep, gets past Torin Byrne, who I'm afraid to say has really struggled of late. That car was well up early on. Another place lost. Look as Revy Lake goes by, but Torin Byrne, who started 3rd on the grid, tumbling now down the order. It's just getting away from him corner by corner. There in contrast is Ethan Lennon, number 32. 15 is Joseph Smith, who's got himself on the back now of Colin Cronin as they accelerate up towards the timing line. Through they come. The race leading Coronel goes by. Fred Green behind. 3 minutes to go. 2 more laps, therefore. Nose to tail. Revy Lake in 83, 18 Torrin Burn. They could not be closer as they come over the timing line, head up towards turn 1 at Riches. To the inside line goes Burn with the mirror folded back. Look on the driver's side, but he still goes through. Revy Lake's going to fall back behind, I think, as they come off the corner. Let's see. Tries to brave it out on the outside. Brave racing down through the gears up towards turn 2, out of which come Coronel and Green. Now, this is where Fred Green needs to start to think about making that move. He's sitting in the wheel tracks, maybe needs to find another length to get totally close enough, but he's certainly thinking all the while now about when and where to make that pass. Down they come now then into the left-hander, Agostini. Battle for 4th meantime, Joseph Smith just ahead. This is George Proudford Nalder's view. Max Cuthbert is ahead of him. The yellow car that you can just about see as the car sometimes turns through a corner is that of Colin Cronin. There he is on the back of Joseph Smith. 1 more lap to run at the end of this. Lead gap 0.390 over second. Smith just ahead of Cronin. That's changed since the start of the lap. So Smith ahead of the yellow car. There they are. It was the other way around when they crossed the stripe. So hashtag victory lane. Joseph Smith's car is not going to get to victory lane, I don't think, unless drama happens ahead, but he certainly raced hard, raced well. Rocco Coronel still looking strong, but what has Fred Green got in his armoury? What can he do to trick a mistake, if you like, out of the race leader here? So the cars work their way through again, heading up towards the line, and there's the lead fight. Still ahead is the car of Coronel. Smith goes through, 75 tucked up behind him. That's the car of Colin Cronin down to turn 12. Now this, with 1 lap to go, is the big lead fight, and Fred Green now gets a tow coming up past the pits. This is where he's going to have to push. He needs to get right up behind Coronel. Maybe challenge coming down to the S's. It's risky because there's not much lap left. He's going to try now, in fact, by getting a tow at the end of the pit straight. Coronel's car quivering under braking. Fred Green's going to go wide. He's in danger of running out of room and road there. He gets on the dirty part of the racetrack and he's lost ground as a result of all of that. So Coronel comes out in a slightly better position, a slightly more secure race lead, with Green now almost being prey to the car behind, namely that of Slater. Behind, you can see another challenge being made. Lindblom gets up the inside of Cronin. He's been shuffled back in the pack at Riches and also up at turn 2. So it's Coronel leading, then a gap. Green second, Slater third. Another big gap before we've got Smith ahead of Cuthbert, Proudford Nalder, Lindblom, and the rest of the pack behind, with Cronin having fallen to the rear of it. Now, Green second, having to go defensive to keep at bay. Look, the car of Alfie Slater, to the outside line he goes, and this is exactly what Coronel needed and exactly what Green did not need. And I'm afraid it was that little error at turn 1 when he got onto the dirty part of the racetrack that has done for him, because he lost grip, lost time, lost momentum, fell into the clutches of Slater, and now it's really hard to try to claw that back. Time penalties are coming, and one of them is for Alfie Slater and the other one is for Noah Young, and this is all for track limit offences. Well, that's Slater. He's all over the back of Green, so Fred Green having to defend, losing touch with Coronel, who now does have a gap, something he's not really had in the entirety of the race, but now he's pulling away as the cars sprint their way again onto the Bentley straight. And the real frustration here for Slater is that even if he gets past Green, it'll do him no good because he's got the time penalty. As far as Green is concerned, he's in a battle with a car that's not really in the battle because of the penalty, but he can't concentrate on the leader because he's got to fend off that green and grey car behind him. Through the S's they come then for the last time, but it does look as though win number 9 is going to go the way of the hard-charging Rocco Coronel. Had to withstand the pressure, and he's driven really well. Green second then, Slater third on the road, but the penalty to come, that's going to potentially promote Joseph Smith, but he's about 2.6 seconds back, so he'll just about stay with him. So here's Coronel then. A 9th win of the season beckons for the Flying Dutchman. He accelerates now up towards the timing line, and it's going to be a Red Bull liveried win in Ginetta Junior Racing at Snetterton. Checkered flag at the ready, and the 12th round of the Ginetta Junior Championship, won by Rocco Coronel. Second across the line, Fred Green ahead of Alfie Slater. Then he put the penalty on, so who's going to get third? It is going to be Joseph Smith. Fourth will be Cuthbert. Fifth will be Lindblom. Sixth will be Proudfoot Nalder. And Slater, seventh, ahead of Lennon, Zunzeren and Byrne, once you apply the penalty. So very, very frustrating for Slater, but you could argue it was all self-induced because of that track limit penalty. Right then, so a win for Rocco Coronel. 20th place just goes across the line with a very close round battle there being decided in favour of Josh Watts. Right, so let's have a look at who finished where then, provisionally, admittedly, in Ginetta Junior Racing. Rocco Coronel is the race winner from Fred Green and Joseph Smith in third. Max Cuthbert fourth ahead of Scott Lindblom. George Proudfoot Nalder taking sixth from Alfie Slater with his penalty. Ethan Lennon next, Roel Zanzaren and Torin Byrne rounding out the top 10. Rocco Coronel's winning margin 1.2 seconds. So Rocco Coronel makes it 9 wins in the Ginetta Junior Championship, and the story will continue at the end of August at Brands Hatch. Great racing we've had here, and the story is far from over in the Ginetta Junior Championship of 2025.